Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Men of Law podcast. My name is Karl Lentini. Today, we're talking to Krystal Jones. She's a mother in Virginia who has had some issues with child custody of her son, and she's going to tell us a story. So, thanks for being here, Krystal.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
So, yeah.
I'm
You doing
learning there
good
are a lot.
today?
Yeah,
That's
bright
good.
and early here, and I'm I'm learning there's a lot of issues that people have in family courts in this country.
Yes, it's not just in Virginia. This is nationwide. It is not, I wouldn't even consider it an epidemic or a pandemic. This is a national crisis that is going on all over the United States and even in other countries like Australia. Like, this is going on nationwide. Like, there's no start point, there's no stop point. It's just going on everywhere.
So tell us your situation. What's going on?
So I have a 6-year-old little boy. I'm not going to mention his name or anything like that because he is 6 and he's entitled to his privacy, which I absolutely will give him. Um, but I actually separated from my ex-husband in it's October 20th of 2020. My son was 8 months old. I separated from his dad. His dad actually tried to have me arrested when I was moving out, but thankfully, God spoke to me and said, just record everything. And I did, thankfully, because if not, his dad tried to have me arrested, saying I violently slammed his hand in a door when, in all actuality, he tried to open the door and I put my hand on the door and I said, please just let me get my stuff and I will leave. Once I showed the cops that, they were like, we're not pressing charges against her. So he then went and had like 8 misdemeanor charges pressed on me for assault and battery, and then went and got 2 felony charges on me 6 months later for forging and uttering. Mind you, they've all been dismissed or noel prosecute, however you want to put it, but never got any convictions out of it. Ever since I left my ex-husband, the very next day I had abuse allegations coming in from CPS, but I was already 10 steps ahead. I already knew he was going to try that. So the day after I left, I called the pediatrician and I said, hey, dad's making allegations of abuse. Can I bring my child in for a full physical examination and you write down the findings and I get a copy of them, which I still have. And the findings were that my 8-month-old had a mosquito bite on his knee, which clearly did not come from me. Um, then there were allegations that I was smoking pot with my son sitting on my lap. Again, he was 8 months old, and I would never even do that. I didn't even smoke cigarettes with him sitting on my lap or anything like that. That's just disgusting. So after that, it's just been a recent thing. It's consistent. It happens every year. I'm in the courtroom and the courthouse at least 13 to 15 times a year. They know me by face and by name, literally. I have been through Frederick County CPS, Warren County CPS, because I moved there to Warren County after leaving Frederick County. And after residing in Warren County for about 4 years, I met my husband, and then we got married in December of 2024. And then in January of 2025, I actually moved into his house here in Page County in Luray. Well, when I lived in Warren County, after a year, I had put in to have, my custody and visitation and stuff transferred to Warren County. And Judge Athey actually denied that request, stating that because the father still resided in Frederick County, they still had jurisdiction over my child, which in fact was not true. They lost that jurisdiction because the child only lived and resided in Frederick County for the first 8 months of his life. After that, he had been a resident of Warren County since 2021. And, I filed this in 2022. So he had already been a resident set in stone from the time I think I moved in there after he turned a year old. I lived with my sister for, a little while. And then I moved into my own apartment and it was just me and him. So Frederick County really did not have jurisdiction over my child just because the father resided in Frederick County.
Just
Warren
one quick
County had
question.
jurisdiction.
When you separated from your husband, the father of the child,
hmm
what was the custody? Who had the custody of that child at that time?
I did. I had primary full custody. We had joint legal, but I had primary physical. He had visitation. At first, it was the first, third, and fourth weekend of the month. Um, but, I was also like, I didn't always go by the court order. If my son wanted to see his dad, you know, children are not supposed to be brought into situations like that. And you have to be an adult. And being an adult sometimes means you have to make decisions that you don't want to, but it's not to benefit you, it's to benefit your child. So if my son said I wanted to see my dad, I would reach out to him and be like, "Hey, do you want to spend time with him? He wants to see you or whatever." You know, I didn't ever basically be like, "No, you can't get him." Now, in 2023, I did say that no, you're not taking him out of state because, we had over the phone discussion, and he told me that at first he was taking him to Tennessee for his daughter's wedding, but then turns around and sends me a location for Nags Head, North Carolina. And I'm like, well, that's in North Carolina. That's not in Tennessee. So at that point, I knew that there was something shady going on, and I was like, I'm not having that. So I was like, listen, I know a lot of same people that he does. Rumor was his girlfriend was going on that vacation and he would not admit to it. He just kept lying about it. And I was like, okay, so either you can pick your girlfriend and her kids to go, or you can pick your son, but he's not going. Like, you're telling me you're going to Tennessee, but then sending me this location. So where are you really going with my child? To me, I was like, you're not about to take my child out of state somewhere. I don't even know where he's really going. I don't know who all he's going to be around. I'm not comfortable doing that. So I did not allow him to go. But in that court order, it said, quote unquote, as long as both parents agree. Well, both parents did not agree. So I did not let him go. And it is what it is. But I had custody of my son until July 29th of 2025. And he should have never even been removed from my custody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we have to, next question is, how did the custody get changed? What happened there?
So I had actually filed motions to amend because I had moved out of Warren County.
The
The
Warren
judge,
County is where your son was?
that's where we had lived in Front Royal.
Okay.
And I had filed those because my apartment had actually gotten flooded and they refused to do what they needed to do to get it cleaned up and livable for me to go back in there with my child. Because again, they flooded my apartment with feces, like 3 to 4 inches of it that I have videos and pictures of. And it was not only all the way out into my hallway, it was in my son's room. He had stuff I had to throw out and all up in his closet. Again, I had furniture, some of his stuff that I had to throw out of his furniture and stuff that belonged to me in my room because it went all the way into his room, in his closet, all in my room and into my closet, all the way clear back to my window. Like, I had to have maintenance people come out and shop vac my 2 bedroom apartment out half the night, and they didn't get done until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And mind you, it's October. I've got all of the windows in the house, in the apartment, open because all you could smell was feces. Me and my son were deathly sick, like literally sick. And I was like, there is no way I am staying in this apartment with my child. Like, you got to get me into somewhere else. Like, I don't care if I have to move and change apartments, They're like, no, we're going to get everything cleaned up. Well, they didn't. And they put me in a temporary apartment 3 buildings down. And it was like crackhead central. Literally, you got people on drugs, their kids running in and out of the building, going into other people's apartment. Like, I literally came home from work one day with my son, and somebody actually broke into the apartment that I was staying in. There's no furniture in there. Like, I had my son's TV over there, and I had an air mattress that we were sleeping on, and I would go over there and get like a couple of dishes that we could use to eat off of. I came home from work one day with my son to find that a girl actually broke into the temporary apartment I was in, had a suitcase full of clothes, and there were a lots of alcohol pads all around the air mattress. So that was signs of drug use for
Mm.
me. And clearly she was having whatever type of intercourse in there, because there was proof of that too. And I'm like looking in the freaking suitcase for like a wallet with an ID so I can take it, to the property manager. And instead I'm finding crack pipes in there. And I'm just like, oh my God. At that point, I just took the whole suitcase and took it to the dumpster and went to the property manager and was like, I can't stay here no more. Like, I can't. So are y'all fixing my apartment? Because if not, I'm gonna move. And they still refuse to fix my apartment or allow me to move into a different one that was not, Cracktown Central. But they refused, so I refused to renew my lease, and I moved out and moved in with my husband. Well, after being married for 2 months, I found out he had gotten some charges back in November, but we weren't even married yet, and we didn't even know that these charges existed. Okay, and it was two misdemeanor charges out of Front Royal. I don't exactly remember what they were, but it was for him doing dumb shit. Okay, but he, like, me or my son were not around him when he did anything. Like, I was either at work or my son was at school. Like, I was never with my husband when he did anything. Well, fast forward to April of 2025, my husband got into an accident. He actually had taken the keys to my vehicle, and while me and my son were at his t-ball practice, and took my vehicle that I was completely unaware of. Well, I immediately, called and reported my vehicle missing to, some friends that worked at the police department. And so they did make a report, and they also stated in there that I did not want to press charges. But that's when I was made aware that my husband was in an accident and that I needed to get to the hospital, and in which I had my stepson, take me to the hospital. And then there's ambulances pulling in, cops swarming in, and a helicopter coming in. And he had to be life flighted to UVA. And during that
UVA
time,
is what for people who don't know?
University University of Virginia. It's a hospital in Charlottesville. It's
Okay,
like one of the best. It's better than Winchester Medical.
so it's probably for trauma
It is.
treatment. Yeah.
Yes, it's one of the biggest hospitals in Virginia. A lot of people go there for a lot of different health issues, but they life flighted him there to the trauma unit on the fifth floor, the West Wing. And we were there for 8 days. He actually was also put into a medically induced coma because he was having seizures as well. And during that time, um, the night he got put in the medical induced coma, my mother in law had just got there, and we were waiting to be able to go in and see him after they got him situated, you know, after they put him in that coma. And after we got to see him, we left. We got home around 3:30 in the morning, and I had to, go and see his PO in the morning and go get my son from his
I'm
dad,
sorry. What's the PO?
probation officer,
Okay.
my husband's probation officer. And I let him know that, like, hey, he's in the hospital. He's not going to be able to make it to his appointment. He's in ICU in a coma. And they were understanding and everything. I then went to meet my ex-husband to pick up my son. And, instead of him talking to me like an adult, he will get third party information and just go with it, think he know everything. But while I was at the hospital with my husband, his daughter's mother actually went to where my car was picked up and towed to, and she posed as me, as my husband's wife, and illegally obtained personal property out of my vehicle without my knowledge or consent in the state of Virginia, which is felony charges, by the way. And she happened to see a clean bong stem, which I completely was unaware that that was even in my car. According to the police, they found it buried in the glove box, and they took it out and tested it. But again, there was nothing, so they didn't even put it in the police report that that had been found. Now, they did say that they also tested a white powdery substance that was on the screen of my husband's phone, but when they tested it, it came back as nothing. But they did say that's probably from the airbag deployment, because when your airbag deploys, it lets out this like white powder or whatever. And that is probably what was on the screen of his phone, because it didn't come back as anything either. Well, they actually put that clean bong stem that they tested in my son's booster seat, along with 3 different test kits, which I have pictures of, because my stepdaughter's mother went and took a picture of that and sent it to my ex-husband, who apparently it's like a co-conspiracy. They're all working together, I guess. I don't know why, but it's like the blind leading the blind. She doesn't even have custody of her kids, by the way. But she sent that to him saying that it was a meth pipe. So I get a like 70-page packet of accusations in the mail. And this is from the court. Mind you, we did have a pretrial set for September 19th. The guardian ad litem, GAL for future references, he expedited it. Okay. Now, in the meantime, while I'm waiting on this court hearing, I call my doctor's office and I'm like, hey, I need to get in as soon as possible. I need to get like a blood draw and do a drug screen. But I wasn't able to see my actual doctor because she was so booked. I actually had to get them to call me back on a cancellation. I literally called every day that week. I know I drove them nuts. But finally, they called me that Friday and was like, hey, I got a cancellation. Can you make it here in 20 minutes? And I said, I'm gonna try like hell. And I got there and they said, well, we're not going to do the blood, but we're going to do the urine. And I'm like, why? I've had blood drawn before. And they're like, yeah, but we're just going to do the urine. And I'm like, okay. I still did the urine drug test. Everything was clean. All I tested positive for is marijuana. Again, in Virginia, it's legal, it's recreational. You can do that. Well, that wasn't good enough. I got a call from the guardian ad litem saying, this isn't good enough. Can we get a hair follicle test? Okay, who's paying for it? Oh, well, you're going to pay for it. Oh, I have to pay for that? Well, I didn't do drugs, and I've got a drug test right here that shows I didn't. So is the dad doing a drug test? No, just you. Okay, so I got pictures from the dad showing that he's got like 6 pot plants growing. Mind you, in Virginia, you're only allowed to have up to 4 plants in your house, and they have to be tagged and labeled with your name and the date that you started them. None of that was on these plants. Mind you, he was 2 over, and he's sending me messages like, do you like my plant? Well, if you don't smoke weed, Common sense only goes to show, why would you have 6 pot plants that you're growing if you don't smoke weed? Manufacturing with the intent to distribute. I didn't have to go to law school to figure that out.
Mhm.
Okay. So I go to get this hair follicle test I have to pay for. Well, they wanted to know who to send the results to. Well, I didn't have a court order saying I had to do anything. So the results ultimately came to me, which I was glad, because that right there kept anybody and everybody from trying to falsify any drug test that I have seen Amherst family practice due to other people.
I've heard that. I have
Yes.
heard stories about that.
Mm-hmm.
Falsified drug tests where
Yes.
you go to one place, it comes back positive. You go somewhere else, it's negative.
And it's the same test.
Right. It's the same exact test and the
Right.
same person.
Mm-hmm. So thankfully, I had the results sent to me, and all my results matched the other drug test. And I was like, there you go.
Now these are
Well,
I'm sorry, drug tests for
they wanted to see if I was doing meth because
mm,
my stepdaughter's mother said, "Oh my God, this is a meth pipe in your son's car seat." First of all, I have all of my teeth. Secondly, I am too pretty to do something that disgusting. Like for real.
mm.
I'm not gonna mess up my body with that nasty stuff at all ever. You will never even catch me around people that do that. I don't affiliate with people like that. I
Do
think
you
that's disgusting.
do you think well it's how did that it wasn't a meth pipe.
No, it wasn't. It actually was a clean bong stem.
Right.
Literally.
And
It was just a clean bong stem.
how did that get there?
So apparently, according to the police, it was in a brown paper bag wrapped up at the very bottom of my glove box. Because, when you get into an accident, they automatically seize and search your vehicle. They want to know what is in there. Do you have drugs in there? Do you have alcohol in there? Do you have weapons in there? Who is driving this vehicle? And if they're a felon, are there guns in the car? Are there bullets in the car? They go through their whole protocol. Okay. That vehicle had already been seized and searched by the police in Page County. There were no drugs, no alcohol, nothing. My husband apparently had been drinking before we even left to go to take my son to T-ball. But mind you, I was at work all day. I get up, I took my kids to school, I went to work. I would get off of work, go pick my kids up from school, bring them home. They're at the table here working on homework. I'm getting dinner ready for them. That way we can eat, and then we're going to T-ball and softball. Okay. So during that time, I didn't even know that that was in there. I got the vehicle off of my husband. My husband gave it to me. So I didn't even know that that was in there. Like honestly, they said it was buried at the very bottom of the glove box, and that's probably why, cuz I never went through it like that. But they said that there was nothing in it. That's why they didn't put it in the police report at all.
So it was
So
as if it was bought from a store and was never used and was
literally,
clean
right. Yeah.
and it's
Literally it was.
totally legal to have that
Yes.
in
Yes.
Virginia.
As long as, if there would have been residue in it, then that would have been illegal. They would have considered that paraphernalia, but because it was clean, it's nothing. It was just
Right.
it's just a glass piece. Like,
And you said the police found it, saw it, and was like
yeah,
of no
they tested it.
significance. Yeah.
Right, absolutely none whatsoever. And I will say, when have you ever known anybody on the face of this earth to have six six police officers, two sergeants, a corporal, two other deputies, and then another officer from Warren County? I had six police officers show up because my pretrial hearing that was in September actually got expedited to July 29th. Okay. And when we went in there, I had six officers to testify. I had The guy, the owner of the tow truck yard, I literally had like 10 or 11 people that I subpoenaed. Okay. Constitutional rights were violated. I was not allowed due process. My witnesses at my pretrial hearing were not allowed to testify. The only evidence that the court wanted to see was the hair follicle test. And because it was negative and they were not allowed to alter any results like they have with other people in that area, guess what? They had no finding against me. They unjustifiably removed custody from me after me having primary custody of my son his entire life, removed him from my custody because they said he could have been in the car. Well, that's speculation. You cannot make a legal decision to remove a child from a safe, loving, and fit parent that has no allegations have been founded or anything. And I am going to tell you, I have been dealing with CPS from 2020 all the way up until now. I have dealt with law enforcement from 2020 all the way up until now. And guess what? Nothing has ever been founded or substantiated against me.
So those 6 officers you talked about, including 2 sergeants and one from another county, they're all testifying under oath in court that you did nothing wrong, no addiction, no nothing. This is a fit mother. She should have custody, basically, of her.
Pretty
just
much.
validating your character, basically.
Absolutely. One of the officers, actually, he used to sit up at the elementary school where I would drop off my stepdaughter in the morning, and then after I left there, would drop my son off at Head Start at the other elementary school right down here in Luray. And the father made allegations that my husband was driving my son around drunk. And I'm like, my husband's never even drove me. I would love to be a passenger princess for once, okay? But I drive everywhere. So in court, I asked the officers, 5 of them, anytime you see us out in public, who's driving? They all said me. I said, who's sitting in the passenger seat? Your husband. Okay. And where are the children at? In the back seat. And they have even been called out, to like Food Line, where my stepdaughter's mother was acting a fool with her little friend, and they got called out. Well, the kids told them, like, look, my stepdaughter was like, I am not getting out of this car. I am not going with my mother, and this is where I am going to stay. Mind you, my husband had custody of his daughter, and I had custody of my son. So, you know what I'm saying? Clearly, we were both fit. We had custody. However, in June, he went to court against his ex for a show cause that the mother had on him. And he made a dumb decision to go to court under the influence of alcohol. And they immediately arrested him in the courtroom. Now, I will tell you, I took him to court, and like my son and I were sitting outside of the courtroom. Okay. I seen officers coming down the stairs, and my heart just said, take him home. I got my son and I said, come on, buddy, we're going to go home. So I take him home, and he's like, Mommy, why did we leave Daddy at the courthouse? I said, Nanny will bring him home. Well, I knew what was going to happen. And that was just because, like, why would you go to court drunk?
Yeah.
I love him, but why would you do that?
I think most people would not go to court drunk.
You would think not.
You would think.
Sometimes addiction does get the best of you, but, it doesn't excuse his behavior. However, they used his behavior on me. I got punished for his behavior. How is that even legal? That would be like Me robbing a bank and then them trying to come and arrest you for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how the law works. Well, in my pretrial hearing that was expedited, the only thing that they came up with, well, your son could have been in the car. And supposedly, I married my husband and I exposed my son to my husband knowing that he was an alcoholic. Well, first of all, the judge asked me, well, how much did he drink? And I was honest. I was like, a bottle, but like, I'm seeing him with like the little small bottles. I'm not seeing him like walk out with like big bottles like this. So, like, I was honest. I just said like a bottle a day. Like, I didn't know that he was closet drinking. I'm not a babysitter. I'm a mother and I'm a wife, but I'm not a babysitter. So, basically, she said, "Well, you lack good judgment and you exposed your son to your husband." And I'm like, "Okay, what does that even mean?" Because my husband, he might have his downfalls just like anybody else, but he is a damn good father and he is a damn good husband. He was a coach, football, basketball, baseball, softball, t-ball. When my son was in t-ball, they were trying to get him to come umpire for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's around all kinds of kids, just not just mine and not just his. Well, fast forward to July 29th, they took custody of my son because of my husband's DUI, even though we were nowhere near him. My son was never in danger. He was with me. He's never drove my son anywhere at all, including me. I'm the only one who drives. I'm the only one who's legal. Well, they gave dad temporary custody, right? Within the first month of him having temporary custody, he withheld my son on my first middle of the week visit because he wasn't in school. And I have a very low tolerance for dealing with dumbasses. That's the easiest way for me to put it. And basically, if that would have been true, I would not have been able to get my son the weekend before because the way she wrote this order says when school starts, well, she specifically stated verbally before school starts, you are to meet mom at Sheets in Front Royal on this day at this time. Well, the first day that I'm supposed to get my son, I get messages. Do you know what days you're even supposed to get your son? Like, as if I'm some unfit person who doesn't know what I'm doing as a parent or a human in life. And I'm like, actually, yes, I do. And I'm already here waiting. Where are you? Oh, well, where am I supposed to meet you? Well, we were just in court last week. You don't remember?
It was in that court order, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to
Yeah.
meet me here at Sheets. Where are you at? He was 48 minutes late. Now, mind you, the judge told him he withhold my
I'm
visitation
I
if
had some
we
audio
were.
trouble there. I
Okay,
had
so the judge actually told my ex-husband that if we were an hour late, either him or me, he could withhold my child on my visitation time.
well, he was the one who was late.
Right. He was actually 48 minutes late to my first pickup. I never got those 48 minutes back, nor did I ever get my middle of the week visit back. Okay. The whole month of August was just a complete shit show. He withheld visitation from me. He went and put our son in school, right? Well, when I had custody, I put me and dad on the school paperwork. Now, I put me as first emergency contact, dad as second, and then two other people who don't live with us in case they can't get a hold of one of us. Well, dad enrolled our son in school, right? He did not put me on no paperwork, violation of my parental rights and constitutional rights. And he did not even put me on the emergency contact list. So I had to not only get into it with school officials in this messed up and corrupt county, I had to send them copies of my current court order, and then I had the girlfriend removed because dad's girlfriend has been inserted not just as a third party, but completely undermining my role as a parent and inserting herself into a parental role. As in, she is on my son's school information, she is on the emergency contact. I was completely left off of everything. I had to tell them to take her off, right? Well, guess what I just found out last week? She's not only back on the pickup list at my son's school, she's also back on the emergency contact list after I had them remove her. So again, constitutional rights are being violated because you're inserting a third party to take on a parental role with a child that does not legally belong to them, and they have no legal authority to do so.
The
Like,
the court order, that's the one I
mhm,
read, right?
yes, this is
Okay.
the current one. Yes.
Right. I
This
read that
was
one.
this is the temporary one from July. I just got this current court order March 19th. That was the day that they set for trial. And I, of course, I had to do subpoena ducis tecum, which I'm going to explain for those of you that don't know. You can use witness subpoenas to physically subpoena people to court to testify, okay? Now, a subpoena ducis tecum you use in order to obtain records, but first you have to go through your chain of commands to do so. So I have been dealing with CPS across 3 jurisdictions, for example, Frederick County, Warren County, and Page County, okay? What you have to do, even if you are dealing with law enforcement, you have to go to your courthouse, go to the JD&R court, and you ask them, can I get a subpoena ducis tecum paper? They will give you one. Make copies of it, front and back. Then you not only fill that out, you also attach what you want. And what that is you want authenticated and certified documents of everything from your case. You want case notes, you want findings, if they are founded, unfounded, if they are substantiated or unsubstantiated. You want case notes, you want any reports or anything that pertains to your child and you. And make sure that they are authenticated, because if not, you will have to ask for a custodian of records to appear. Most of the time, they will file a motion to quash. However, if you just ask them for the authenticated and certified documents, they do not have to appear in court. But what that authentication and certification does, it allows the courts to enter that as evidence without a physical person being there saying, yes, these are authentic and these are certified. If you already have that and they're already authenticated and certified, they have to allow that in rules of evidence in the court. That's where it kind of hurt me, because I was unaware that 2 of the jurisdictions had filed motion to quash. I didn't know that until I went there. However, I already had records from Page and Warren County Social Services. I subpoenaed my CPS worker from Page County here. I get a call from my CPS worker the week of trial, and she says, hey, I just wanted to let you know I am actually going to have to charge you $350 an hour for me and my attorney to appear in court for trial, and have you pay travel expenses as well. That was smoke up my ass, literally. Because when I went to court, I told the judge that they said, the guardian ad litem walked in and said, Your Honor, I would like to change my what do they call it? I would like to change basically what I said in my report. I wanted to do one thing, but now I change. I want to go over. I'm going to let the evidence play out, but I definitely want to change, what I had originally put down because of the CPS worker. Well, how could you do that when she wasn't there? So they allowed me to have my trial. They allowed my due process for my trial. However, they did not give controverted weight to the evidence. Instead, the judge doesn't want us as parents to have emotion while we're in court dealing with stressful situations that involve our children. But in my court order, as you read, she's got more emotion there than I've ever seen Oprah Winfrey have on national TV. Literally. My court order is so consistently inconsistent. I don't even think a lawyer could read that and understand it. And
I'm not an expert in reading court
right,
orders, but
right,
when I read it, it was kind of all over the place. It was kind of
mhm,
confusing.
right. You've seen where it said, filed motions to amend. I denied them, which is fine. But again, she's not looking at the whole picture. She's saying, okay, well, you failed to tell me why the child's best interests are to move. Well, stable housing. I got married. This is stable housing. My husband has been in this house for 20 years. He's not going anywhere. His mom owns the house, okay? Secondly, the schools up here are a lot better than Frederick County. One, we don't have any lawsuits up here in Page County. Two, our school teachers and school resource officers aren't having inappropriate sexual relations with the students in the county. My child is not riding on a school bus with a bus driver who was charged with a DUI with two children on a school bus on a morning bus route. Frederick County is not the place you want your children growing up these
So
days.
let me just get this straight. Frederick County, where your son
Mm-hmm.
is now,
Mm-hmm.
has a school system where there are accusations against school teachers, officials,
Yes,
inappropriate
it's
things going on with children, and also a bus driver who has a
mm-hmm.
DUI who was drunk
Yes.
while they were driving the bus with kids in it.
I was told after the fact that the bus driver was not intoxicated on alcohol, but it was still prescription medications. At the end of the day, a DUI is a DUI. You're driving under the influence of something,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing it and you're risking children's lives. It doesn't matter if that is my child on the bus or somebody else's. And what makes it even worse is this was a special needs bus. You have special needs children on this bus at that, and you are driving erratically at 7:30 in the morning to the point where a Frederick County police officer had to stop the bus and charge the bus driver with a DUI. But because it was a school official, they swept it under the rug. The person did not get booked into RSW. There was no booking, fingerprinting, or nothing of
No
this bus driver.
fingerprinting?
Nothing. They
Was
were
there
released on a summons.
some kind of I don't know, blood test or toxicological test or
After that fact, I probably would assume so once they went to court. But during that time, like they told the police that they had started a new medication. And I'm sorry, my mother was a school bus driver when I was a child, and my mother took medication too. However, my mother would not have went and taken a new medication the day that she knows she's going to start driving, a school bus. She would have taken that on like a Friday to
right.
try it out and see how it made her feel, or even a Saturday. She's not going to take that medication on a Monday morning right before she starts her bus route.
Right. I've
There's
never
all
heard that
kinds of
before.
bus drivers. No, there's all kinds of bus drivers that are on medications. And I'm here to tell you, They're not going to be like, oh, well, let me wait until I go to pick up these kids tomorrow morning to take this medication. That doesn't even make sense.
So you're saying you don't want your child in this county where these things are happening. The county you
Absolutely
live
not.
in, you don't
Mhm.
have any of these accusations or issues.
No, no, not at all.
And it's a better school. You determine
Better
as a parent, it's a
schools.
better school system for your child.
Yeah, absolutely. And my neighbor is my stepdaughter's school resource officer. I mean, I've got her, I got the chief of police literally that would be at the school every morning, waving to us, talking to us during drop off and pickup. So it's like, what would they really do if I walked up there with the chief of police and the damn sheriff from Page County? They would really shit themselves because my son is not shy. He loves police officers. So, like, even when they had a Halloween event up here, that Page County Sheriff's Department was doing, like, they blocked off the street and they had trick or treating. My son walked right up to Chad Cubbage and was like, "Are you guys hiring? I want to be a policeman." And Chad laughed and he said, "Well, how old are you, buddy?" And he's like, "I'm this many." And he's like, "Well, in about 13 years, you come and see me." He said, "I don't know if I'll still be the sheriff, but I'm sure we can get you a job here." Like, he loves cops and they love him. So, like, the cops come to my house. I'm like, "Hey, you guys want to come in?" Like, "What's up? What's going on now? What did I do?" Literally. And they're like, they come in and they're like, "Okay, like, why are we even here?" And so, literally, my ex-husband, this is the funniest shit ever. I say it's funny because to me, I'm just like, what is next? So, my windows all around my house are literally 3 feet off of the ground. And he called CPS telling them that my son and my stepdaughter were jumping out of first story windows. So I went around my house and I measured my windows that are literally 3 feet off of the ground. And CPS even came here and I was like, "Listen, I'm not trying to be an asshole." I did refuse the first time I met with a CPS worker to sign a safety plan because I'm like, "Hold on. I am not signing this because then that means that I'm admitting to it." So what I did was I brought the safety plan home. I went over it with my legal team. Then I also made up two different documents that I signed. One was stating, "I will sign this so I can comply and be compliant with CPS. However, I am not admitting that my child was unsupervised," because the situation was my son and my stepdaughter were outside playing. Okay. I actually had come around the side. My mother-in-law lives like 30 feet from me. So she's like, "Hey, do you got some butter or whatever?" So I ran into my house to grab a stick of butter, went over, handed it to her, and the kids went from playing in the middle of the yard and I heard them around back and I'm like, "They know that they are not allowed to play around back because it's closer to the road and people fly up and down my road." So I walked around the side of the house, and about that time, my stepdaughter was like, "What are y'all doing around here?" And I scared her. Well, they were practicing on what to do in case of a break in or a fire, which I've always taught my children, you don't sleep with your bedroom door shut because if there's a fire and you go to touch the door, it's going to be hot. If there's a fire or somebody's trying to break in, you go out your bedroom window, they can safely climb out of their bedroom window. I said, and what you're going to do is you're going to go to the side of the house and you're going to peek around the corner. As long as everything's okay, you run. You run to Lisa's house. Lisa is the deputy. She's a corporal with the Page County Sheriff's Department. She is actually my stepdaughter's school resource officer. And I said, you go to Lisa's house and you tell them you need help and they will help you. I teach my kids not to be scared of cops. A lot of kids are scared, of cops because they're taught that from their parents. If you teach your children something, hate is a good one. You teach your children hate. You teach your children love. If you teach your child, hey, not all cops are bad, you can go to them for help. Like, you do that. I've taught my kids, if you get lost somewhere, you look for the biggest, scariest biker with tattoos. If you can't find a cop, you look for the biggest, baddest biker that has tattoos all over him. You want to know why? They said, why, Mama? I said, because those are the people that are going to make sure you get back to where you need to be. And so that's what he was doing. Him and his sister were practicing what happens in case of an emergency. And she had him, like, he didn't jump out of the window. You physically can't jump out of my window. They were climbing out. And when I startled her, she dropped him, but he hit his head on concrete. Okay. Now, mind you, he had a little bump. I have a friend who is a nurse, and my mother-in-law is also a nurse. So I automatically went over there freaking out, like, oh my God, I got to take him to the hospital. And they're like, calm down, calm down. They're checking him over. His eyes are fine. He doesn't have a concussion. He's fine. He's not vomiting. He just said my head hurts. So we gave him an ice pack and gave him some children's Tylenol. He was fine. Never heard nothing about it at all. Well, Dad called CPS and said that he was jumping out of first-story windows. So they opened up an investigation. They came out and they seen that that was not true. Well, then they were working on getting that case closed. And then Dad called and made another report. What was that one? First, the kids were jumping out of first-story windows, and then something else. There's been so much stuff over the past 6 years. Then he made another allegation of something crazy. And I was just like, okay, yeah, just come on in. Like, they literally had me and my husband down as alleged abusers. And I was like, why is my husband even on this paperwork? He's been locked up since June 18th. Like, why is he even on here? And they're like, I don't know, but we'll take him off. So they took him off. And basically, once you get those records after FOIA requesting them, they really speak volumes. So that's why it's important to get them authenticated so they can be used in court. That's what hurt me. I couldn't let them be used in court. In these papers from CPS, it states, Dad is still very adamant that Mom's on drugs. I do drug tests all the time, friend. I don't care. They're still going to come back as clean.
Right.
After asking for additional supportive services from CPS, the CPS worker knew, like, I'm legit. But I was asking for supportive services because they had a no contact order. They still have a no contact order between my son and my husband. At all.
Wait, what's that mean?
So in my court order, my son is not allowed around my husband at all whatsoever at any time.
Right.
So I asked them if they would be open to gradually lifting the no contact order because I have, it's not technically a safety plan, but it's safeguards in place. Once my husband got out of jail, mind you, he was in there since June 18th of last year. This whole time, my son could still have been with me. There was no reason for my son to be taken away. He was in jail when I went to court for the pretrial. He was still in jail when I went to trial, okay? I let them know upon release, my husband will be taken to Juvenile Shaft, which is like a halfway house / recovery center. Like they do 90-day programs and stuff there. And I said he would still be on probation and be at Juvenile Shaft house. He would have to successfully complete this program. And I also asked for my son to have therapy. Well, basically, I was told that yes, my son would get therapy. No, the no contact thing still stays in place for whatever absurd reason they're going to come up with. But he's never caused any harm to my child. My child has never been in danger, as well as his child has never been in danger with me or him. Although I was just the stepmom with my stepdaughter, I was the primary parent for both. Like I was the mom. I was here doing everything. And it doesn't bother me because I love my kids.
So you were a stepmother for your husband's child.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's totally fine, totally legal, no problems with you. But with your own son,
Yeah.
for some reason, you can't have custody, but you can this other child.
Right. So it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
fit to be a step parent, but I'm not fit to be a parent. That doesn't.
Right.
Can
For
you
your
make that
own.
make sense? I can't either. I've tried for months, and I'm like, I just can't get this to make it make sense, because this same guardian ad litem that my son has actually said in 2018 that I was fit to be a stepmother to my stepchildren with my ex-husband, which is my son's father, and I was fit to be a stepmother and be around my other two, stepkids that we were getting custody of. I'm still fit. The guardian ad litem doesn't even have any independent findings against me. There are no findings from police. There are no findings from CPS or anything. And basically, I have just been taken around the block, I guess you could say, from judges lying to lawyers lying to CPS workers lying and saying one thing. So this time I absolutely appealed it. I mean, what comes at the end of a sentence? An appeal. And if you're not new to it, like, don't ever say a period comes at the end of a sentence. It's an appeal, because you have a time frame. You have 10 days from the date that that order is written to appeal it, and you better take full advantage of it. I don't care if you think that there is one thing wrong, you appeal it. Absolutely. And I did. I let that known before I even left the courtroom on March 19th. So when I have 10 days from today, right, to appeal this decision. She said, no, you have 10 days from the date that the order is written. Okay. I don't know if she went home. This is Judge Kellis I'm talking about. I don't know if she went home and had too much bourbon before she went to bed and woke up with a hangover. But when she wrote this court order that Friday morning, I don't know where her thoughts were, but clearly they were not together, because that court order is all over the place. It's, like I said, consistently inconsistent. And, like page 7 of 13, where we get to the holiday schedule, not only is the court order so inconsistent, um, the holiday schedule is actually pulled from a prior court order in 2023. So, therefore, you cannot take an old court order and then put it with the new one. That right there is automatic grounds for reversal, which, again, you're a judge. You should know this. Why am I, as an American citizen, having to go through and look at this and be like, this is just insane? The Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court would look at this and be like, what in the hell? What in the hell?
So as we get close to wrapping this up, I think next time we can go deeper into that court order
Yes.
and talk about it, because there's so much there. There's that
There
issue.
is.
I read it. There doesn't seem to be any way to enforce anything.
Like, the judge gave us joint legal custody, but after the father had taken my son to the hospital with abuse allegations twice, still unsubstantiated by a medical forensic examiner, they gave him final say. How are you going to give somebody final say when this is the same person that didn't even take their child to their 6-year-old well check? I had to make the appointment. And when I brought that up in court, he said, well, I didn't know he had to get one. Well, that's probably because you've never taken him to the doctor, but yet you can take him to the hospital for unnecessary medical treatment. But where it matters at, you don't show up. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So I not only want to touch base on, the court order, but I also want to get into, the Family First Act. That's about preserving families. I also want to get into some Supreme Law cases, that people can use in their court case that can actually help them get their child back, you
So
know?
there are U.S. Supreme Court cases that have been
Mhm.
handed down over the years that can
Mhm.
help parents like yourself in
Absolutely.
local cases getting their child back.
Yes. Now, I didn't use these in the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court because the lower court really doesn't, to me, they really didn't care about that. But in circuit court, absolutely, because they are there to fix what the lower court screwed up on. But the higher in appeals you go, you'll see, like, even Court of Appeals, like with some of these cases, for example, in my court case, I am definitely going to be using Troxel versus Granville. That is where, you have a parent have a fundamental constitutional right to make the decisions of where the care, custody, control, like their education, where they go to school at, where they go to the doctors at, all of that. As long as you are a fit parent, they cannot interfere. Again, you have a fundamental right that, life, liberty, um, you are basically constitutionally, federally protected under the Constitution as a fit parent that have had no findings of abuse or neglect. Even with CPS or police, I don't even have like a drinking and driving with I've never had a DUI, but I definitely don't have one with a child. I've
Mhm.
seen moms in courthouses that have a DU or a DUI, third offense, with a child in the car. They never lost custody of their kid. And I'm just like, I'm here because my husband had a DUI. They cannot punish a parent for a third party's actions unless that third party's actions are causing that child harm.
Right. Right.
So I think if more people knew about Supreme Court cases and laws and they exercised their rights, they would have a lot more better chance. But my advice to them is just appeal, appeal, appeal. You have a deadline, you have to stay within that guideline, but appeal it.
I've read before about cases in local and city courts where they make a determination on something. Somebody comes in, yeah, but the Supreme Court had this case, and all of a sudden, it's as if they don't want to recognize the Supreme Court is there
Yeah,
and is the
exactly.
Supreme Court of the country.
Yeah, that are federally protected. That's why
Right.
the higher courts have to go in and fix what the lower courts are doing because especially circuit court judges, they know. Like, I don't really think that domestic relation judges even care about that. I think that they're just in it for the paycheck. The judge that I've been dealing with was in foster care. Okay. She was a foster child herself. And she then became a judge. I had the same judge 20 years ago with my daughter. So it's like, if there have been no abuse findings with me and my child, leave us alone. Like, seriously. My child at 6 years old has been questioned and interrogated, not just by his father, not just by his dad's girlfriend, who is irrelevant and always will be. Um, the judge says she's not irrelevant. However, I'm a fit parent and she is irrelevant. She is the dad's girlfriend. She needs to maintain her lane. I maintain my lane even as a stepmom. I do things for my stepdaughter. I did take her to school, packed her lunch. I do all the stuff that a mom does. However, I do not have any legal right over my stepdaughter. My husband does. My husband and her mother do. I do not overstep my boundaries. That is their issue. That has nothing to do with me. I am here to love them, help them grow, and just be there for them. But with her, I don't have legal rights. With my son, I do. My husband has no legal rights to my son. So why am I, as the mother, being punished for my husband's DUI when me or my son weren't even there?
Right.
He was never endangered. He's never been in harm's way, and neither was I. So at the end of the day, my son was unjustifiably removed.
Well, I think you hit the key words. Leave us alone. We're a
Yeah.
family. Leave us alone.
hmm And the
Well,
good thing about it is this is 2026, and we got Francesca Amato. She is working on the Family Justice Accountability Act, and hopefully soon that will get passed nationwide. There are different chapters of it for each state, and hopefully Donald Trump will jump on board and make this legal because it's 2026, honey. Just start suing them, the judges, the guardian ad litem,
mm,
the people who are slandering your name. By the time I'm done, they're all going to need a second and third job, and I'm going to be a stay-at-home wife.
mm.
My son, my son is going to be set for life. Absolutely. He's going to have a college fund. He's going to have when I'm 18, and if I want to move out, he's going to have his own apartment if he wants. He's going to have money to go buy his own car, whatever he wants, because when I'm done, you will know who I am. Absolutely, 100%. And I will hold everybody accountable. I don't care how far I have to take it.
Well, Krystal, I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us.
hmm
And this will be continued. There will be more
Absolutely.
discussions. There's a lot more to dive into here. And I really
Absolutely.
appreciate you basically giving us an introduction because this touches on you, but also millions of other parents out there.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
I
right.
think that it is
Parents,
very important that everybody, I don't care if you're a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, a sibling, or a grandparent that's got custody of this child that you have, boy, girl, whatever their relationship to you may be, if you're going through this stuff and you are having to deal with your child being taken for falsifying medical abuse or anything, speak up and speak out. Like reach out to us. I have a whole mom group. Like we are there for you. We will help you. And I don't care what state you're in. The states you're federally protected. So reach up and reach out. If you need to reach me, you absolutely can. I mean, I'm here to help other parents because the more we stand up and the more we speak out, the more that this is getting known, not just to congressmen and senators, but like I'm half tempted to reach out to Netflix and talk to Netflix about making a movie or a series. Like this is a nationwide crisis that needs to be dealt with.
well,
What
people watching this uh, podcast, if they want to reach out to you, where can they do
mhm.
that?
So I am on Facebook as Krystal Jones. You can also, if you wanted to, I could give my email address to you and you could post it, in the bio of the video. And you can even give them my phone number. I absolutely do not mind at all. I have
Okay.
people hit me up on Facebook Messenger all the time. I don't use Snapchat. I'm more of a you can message me, call me, or send me a personal message on Messenger or call me on Messenger, video or regular. It doesn't matter to me. I'm here to help because the
Okay.
more we speak up and speak out, everybody's going to get heard. And who knows? You might have a RICO law case or a RICO lawsuit case in the county that you're dealing with, and you might not even know it. And you could
Right.
be part of that RICO lawsuit.
Right.
So I think it's very important for everybody to speak up and speak out. It is a nationwide crisis that needs to be handled.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Krystal.
Oh,
We
you're
will
very
talk.
welcome.
We'll talk again. Stay on here. Stay on.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone, for watching.
Thank you.